Good afternoon. I'm Doug Loud, speaking for O&M Partners, and I want to welcome everyone to the Southern Silver Exploration Corporation Town Hall webinar. Now, just so you know, Southern Silver trades under the symbol SSV on the Toronto Venture Exchange and SSVFF on the OTCQB. For those of you who are new to these broadcasts, you should know that 7 years ago, in 2014, O&M recognized the sea change that was occurring in the world of non-deal investment marketing. Suddenly, there was information becoming way more available to a whole new generation of investors that couldn't be found in the usual key financial centers. Investors started receiving information at home, even that used to be geared and available only to professional investors. So O&M developed their digital roadmap, enabled them to keep pace with the tremendous changes in investor demographics and how they receive information. Now, after today's presentation, there will be a question and answer session. The questions in the Q&A are for everyone. The broadcast may answer questions you didn't even know to ask. I know that happens to me sometimes. Your questions can easily be asked by going to the question portal of the GoToWebinar screen or by emailing us. For any questions that remain unanswered at the end of the program, we will follow up in a timely manner after the call. Now, for those of you who've dialed in only with your phone, our modern technology says that you can only hear our pre-recorded introductory presentation on your computer speakers. So if that's not possible, you will be able to hear the main presentation when it begins after about 7 minutes, so stay tuned. Today, our introductory speaker is going to be Peter Kraut, a writer and investor. Peter Kraut is a former portfolio advisor and 20-year veteran of the resource markets with a special expertise in precious metals, mining, and energy stocks. He is the editor of the Silver Stock Investor. He wants us to tell you that he researches and analyzes silver miners and tells you and his subscribers how he invests his own money in this sector. It's strictly independent, unbiased research. He takes no compensation from those companies. He likes to note that while gold is in a massive bull market, silver always outperforms gold. The Silver Stock Investor is the only investment newsletter focused only on silver and that covers large producers all the way down to the early stage junior explorers. Now, here's Peter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Peter Kraut, editor of Silver Stock Investor, a silver-focused investment newsletter that covers everything from larger silver producers and ETFs all the way to junior silver explorers. And today I'd like to make the case for investing in silver and silver stocks. If we look at mine supply for silver over the last 5 years or so, we see a steady decline. That's been the case since 2015. It has been declining, in fact, each and every year steadily since then. None of the top 10 silver producing countries has escaped this trend, not even some of the larger ones like Mexico, Peru, or China. And it's certainly a trend that we see likely to continue over the next several years. Under 30% of silver produced every year, mined every year, comes from primary silver mines. That means that most of the silver that's mined comes as a byproduct of gold, lead, zinc, or copper. So when silver prices rise, those miners regard their silver production as such a small portion of revenue that they often don't or won't react to higher silver prices, which helps, in fact, sometimes to feed even higher prices as supply is unable to meet growing demand. Comparing silver to gold, we know that both are monetary metals, but silver is considered much more of an industrial metal compared to gold. About 50% of silver's demand is on the industrial side. That includes things like solar and EVs, electric vehicles. And increasingly, a lot of silver demand has been coming from the investment side of demand, things like ETFs, coins, and bars. In fact, we are in the last several months and the past year or so seeing historically high demand for silver. Vehicle demand has been up tremendously. Um, Things like internal combustion engines have uh, required typically anywhere from 15 to 28 grams. But with the rise in electric vehicles, which require anywhere from 25 to 50 grams, which is essentially double the consumption in an internal combustion engine vehicle, certainly the demand for silver for the auto industry is likely to rise considerably over the next several years. The Silver Institute estimates that silver demand will be up by about 50% over just the next 5 years, from about 60 million ounces annually to about 90 million ounces annually. Solar panels, we expect, will also see strong growth. They are the largest industrial application for silver. They require about 100 million ounces every year. The average solar panel requires about 20 grams per unit. That unit consumption has been falling as manufacturers look to increase the efficiencies and cut costs. But the worldwide growth of production and installation of solar panels, we expect, will certainly make up for any efficiencies in consumption for manufacturing of solar panels. And as I said earlier, silver investment has been certainly the wild card. We see that aspect of things exploding. It's been increasing steadily since 2015. Last year was an outsized year for silver ETF and coins and bars. And in the first couple of months of this year, certainly in part because of these whole Wall Street bets and silver squeeze movement, a huge amount of silver has been purchased. We've seen global ETF holdings of silver up massively, currently sitting around 1.2 billion ounces in early February, which is a full 20% above the entire year's supply of silver. And the outlook for silver this year certainly is very bullish. We expect that physical silver and gold will continue to be widely in demand and sold out. We've seen bullion dealers having an extremely difficult time meeting requests for deliveries. Premiums are up anywhere from 40 to 50% above the spot price, which is typical of your average premiums on physical silver. And we're at a point now where we've seen that the silver price for the price for physical silver has detached from the spot and futures prices. And certainly I believe that this discrepancy is going to be resolved with with spot and futures prices having to climb to reach anywhere close to what the current physical silver prices are. And that's why my target this year for silver is for it to reach about $37 per ounce. An important gauge to compare and to see where silver stands in its overall bull market is where the gold-silver ratio stands. That's a simple ratio where we calculate by dividing the gold price over the silver price, and that tells us how many ounces of silver are required to buy 1 ounce of gold. That ratio peaked in March of last year at the most crucial point when the world realized we would start to lock down and shut down on the back of a global pandemic. Ever since then, the ratio has been falling. It fell steadily from 125 last March. We're currently sitting at about 66, 68. I believe that's heading down to more of a longer term average of about 55. And if we use a $2,000 gold price and a 55 gold to silver ratio, that again implies a $37 silver price, which is 48% above silver's current price of around $25 per ounce. Interestingly, silver always outperforms gold in bull markets. If we look at the 1970s market, silver on a percentage basis easily outpaced gold with a much higher peak. Again, in 2011, silver considerably outpaced the gold price with its peak around $50. And if we look at where both of those metals prices currently sit, even with gold having reached an all-time nominal high of over $2,000 in August, and silver near $30 around the same time, that certainly indicates that silver has a lot of catching up to do and a lot of tremendous upside from this point. Silver stocks can provide huge leverage to the price of silver. This is one view of early 2016 when silver started out strong out of the gates at the start of the year. Within about 6 or 7 months, silver was up 48%. And if we look at the average silver price by looking at the SIL ETF, which is a grouping of larger silver stocks, that ETF over that same time frame was up 240%, or 5 times what the silver price had generated. More recently, since last March, silver stocks are up about 127% to date, and gold stocks are up about 73%. So we certainly see that silver stocks have been outpacing gold stocks. That started in about June or July, and that outpacing has continued since then, and certainly leads us to expect that trend to continue. If we look at previous bull markets for silver in the 1970s, and this is just the price of silver itself, not even the silver stocks, which of course tend to leverage silver by a multiple. Silver itself was up 37 times from bottom to top. In the 2001 to 2011 bull market for silver, it was up about 11 times. And so we certainly believe that we're in a renewed bull market for silver, and expect very similar, perhaps even better returns than this time around. To recap, Silver Stock Investor is a silver-focused newsletter that covers the full risk spectrum of silver investments, everything from silver ETFs, including large producers, royalties, developers, all the way down to junior silver explorers. It's aimed at new and experienced investors, covering everything from low to higher risk stocks. And just an interesting aspect, in particular regarding juniors, what we've seen is that even if the silver price stalls and moves sideways for a while, we can still get some tremendous kicker out of junior silver stocks. To give you an example, there's one stock in the portfolio that over the last 7 weeks is up 47% on outstanding drill results. So thank you for listening to this overview of the outlook for silver. I invite everyone to go to silverstockinvestor.com to get a more information about Silver Stock Investor newsletter. And I encourage everyone to remember, silver's in a bull market, and there is tremendous upside for both silver and silver stocks straight ahead. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. That was really very interesting. Today, our presenter for Southern Silver is going to be Larry Page, as well as Rob McDonald. Larry Page is the director and president. He is the principal of the Mannix Resources Group of Vancouver, which provides administrative, financial, corporate finance, and geologic services to a number of public companies in the mineral resource sector. And he serves as a director of 4 public companies, including Bravada Gold, Equity Metals, Southern Silver itself, and Valterra. Larry obtained his law degree from the University of British Columbia in 1964, and he's practiced in the areas of natural resource law and corporate and securities law till today. He's been the counsel for a number of public companies that have discovered and developed producing mines, such as the David Bell and Page Williams mines in Ontario, Snip, Calpine, SK Creek, and Mascot gold mines in British Columbia, as well as the discovery of the Penasquito mine in Mexico. Rob McDonald is the Vice President of Geologic Services for the Mannix Group of companies. Rob has overseen the exploration of many projects throughout North America, including the discovery of the high-grade 1.2 million ounce Homestake Ridge silver gold deposit in northern British Columbia. Currently, he's working on advancing Southern Silver's 1.2 million ton Cerro Las Minitas silver, lead, and zinc project in Durango, Mexico. Rob graduated with a BS in Science from Memorial University of Newfoundland in 1990 and earned a Master's in Science from the University of British Columbia in 1999. His work over his career has focused on vein and intrusion-related gold systems and VMS environments. Prior to joining Mannix, Rob worked as a geologist with the British Columbia Geologic Survey and Tech Exploration on projects in Alaska, Peru, and British Columbia. Now here's Larry.
Larry, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Am I okay with you?
Yep, you should now see a prompt to show your web camera. There you go. Thank you much.
Good. Well, thank you very much, folks, for taking the time to listen to us. It's pretty interesting to hear what Peter had to say. It put a little bit of enthusiasm into me. And what I'd like to tell you about is we heard in my little preamble there of what I've done, etc. But I'd like to tell you a little homily really as to why Southern Silver is presenting here today with a resource and with the ability that it's demonstrating at the present time to increase that resource in a silver property in Durango, Mexico. Historically, our last win for our shareholders in the Mannix Group was about 11 or 12 years ago. A company called Western Silver was a penny dreadful. It had a meritorious property in Zacatecas, Mexico called Penasquito. And as it drilled it, it was becoming apparent that was just increasing and increasing in tonnage and grade, and to the extent that what usually happens to juniors, a major came along, Glamis Gold in that case, took it out on a share transaction, and then Glamis was taken out by Goldcorp. The shareholders had a $1.2 billion payday, and it went from pennies to multiples, 60 cents to $37. And that's, all things being equal, usually what happens. Juniors are taken out by majors, and majors build mines. And we wanted to see if we could use the same infrastructure that we had in Mexico, the same human resources, to see if we could emulate that success. Companies in the Mannix Group were exploring on the west coast of North America. We had some knowledge of what was going on in Mexico, and we had good lawyers, geologists, accountants, and people of that ilk, and geologists, probably the most important one. I don't want to forget that, or Rob will have words with me. In any event, we think we're well on our way to doing that. We found a property in Durango, Mexico, which was an amalgamation of several artisanal mines that had been kind of mom and pop developed over the years. And this was the first time that the entire claim package came together. We were able to buy it for $4 million. Dollars are always US when you're talking in Mexico. And there are no burdens on it. So that's important because it makes you more attractive to streaming companies or majors. We were helped during that period of time. This was following the 2008 depression with Freeport McMoran farmed into us, wanted to see if they could find a copper gold porphyry at depth. They spent $5 million and then left Mexico and left us with the property and the database, etc. They were followed by the Electrum Company out of New York and Denver, which began investing in our issued capital, and at the present time they own about 25% of our issued capital. It's kind of important because when you look at the issued capital, although we've got a number of shares in issue, 25% of it are not in play. Electrum earned into a 60% direct interest in the property up to September of 2020. At that time, although we were operator, we were having a little bit of difficulty getting budgets together, and so we made a deal with Electrum, which was busy at that time bringing another mine in Chihuahua, the Gatos silver-lead-zinc mine, into production. They were more focused on that. We were the smaller of the siblings, and in any event, we made a deal that we would buy their 60% interest for $15 million. We did that. We closed the deal. We now own the project 100%. We paid 2/3 of the purchase price. The balance of $4 million is to be paid on September the 15th, 50% in cash and 50% in shares. And we have the cash, and obviously the shares they're issued at the 20-day VWAP before closing. So since that time, we started a 10,000 meter drill program. We're building on a resource that we published in 2019, 272 million ounces of silver equivalency, and Rob will tell you more about that and tell you the idea of expanding that. And we increased the exploration program we doubled it. So we're into the second part of that now. We're in the process of doing a resource analysis mid-year this year, after which we'll issue a PEA. So with all those building blocks, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Rob to tell you where we are, and then I'll come back for the Q&A. But we are well on our way to developing what could be one of the largest silver mines in the world. And Rob is going to tell you why. So if that suits you, Rob, would you mind taking over now and just talking about the work program and your presentation, and then I'll come back in. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Larry, and thank you all for joining us in this presentation and getting the latest update on the Cerro Las Minitas project. So yeah, at Cerro Las Minitas, what we're looking at is to develop the next major silver resource in Mexico. We already have one of the largest silver-based resources in the world at this time, and we are looking at making it bigger, and we're looking at making it better. And as I go through the presentation, I'll hopefully demonstrate exactly how we're doing that and the methodology and the systematics that we're using. I will be issuing forward-looking statements. These are generally aspirational in nature, like we expect or believe or anticipate, and so they should be treated as such. So with the Cerro Las Minitas project, it's the flagship asset of Southern Silver, and it is the story that I'll be relating most in the presentation. It is a large silver-lead-zinc skarn system located in Durango, Mexico. It is currently one of the largest and highest grade undeveloped silver-based projects in the world, with indicated and inferred resources totaling 272 million silver equivalent ounces at an average grade of 354 grams per ton silver equivalent. It's located in a well-established silver mining district in Durango, and we're surrounded by producing companies. Larry has discussed the acquisition of our former joint venture partners' 60% interest in the project. This was for $15 million in cash and share payments. We've paid out $11 million of that right now and have one more tranche, $4 million US, half in shares, half in cash, due in September 15th of this year. This now gives us 100% ownership and control of the project. We are fully financed with over $7 million in the bank, and we're well placed to continue expanding the project and developing the project and moving it forward towards a production decision. We're in the middle of a 20,000 meter drill program that started in September 2020. We've already identified a number of high-grade intercepts and very impressive drill results to date. Our plan right now is to increase the size of the deposit by 30%, and that would be taking the deposit from 272 million silver equivalent ounces to in and around 350 million silver equivalent ounces. We are targeting a resource update in the July-August timeframe. And then, as Larry has mentioned, we'll then be rolling that into a preliminary economic assessment, which was originally scheduled for the latter part of 2021. But given that we've expanded the drill program, it might get pushed off into the first quarter of 2022. Again, since we made the announcement of the acquisition of the 100% interest in the project, we have been one of the top performing silver stocks in the market. We've seen a sharp increase in our trading volume associated with the announcement, a sharp increase in our share price. And although it's settled back, it's still staying, quite nicely in that 45 to 55 cent range. We concluded a financing here at this point in early September, and then once the hold came off, we maintained the share trade volume, and we've carried that on into 2021. So this has been a value-creating transaction, a transformative transaction for the company. It's at a very low cost point at 9 cents an ounce silver equivalent. We have that mostly paid off with one more tranche left to go. And what this does, it gives us full control over the project timeline, full control over the project, a premier polymetallic project in Mexico. It increases our attributable resources. It enhances the market profile of the company, increases the market capitalization, and makes us a more attractive takeover target. Now, Larry mentioned Western Silver Corporation, and this is sort of what we try to aspire to, or certainly a similar sort of chart. And when I first joined the Manex group, Western was trading at around 64 cents a share, and then you can see the progress of the company, and eventually selling at $35 a share to Glamis Gold in 2006, and all along this pathway, there were the different milestones, the initial resource on the project, new discovery, then moving into a pre-feasibility stage, and then finally a feasibility. And it seemed to be that the project continued to build, continued to grow, and then the feasibility essentially triggered the acquisition and the ultimate sale of the project. So I mean, right now we're sort of in this new discovery. We've identified some high-grade mineralization, which can be ultimately a game changer for the project. And so we're probably in this new discovery range, and then we're going to be putting out an economic assessment, a new resource and economic assessment. So we're still in the early part of this curve, and what we're looking forward to is continue building the story and creating value in the company for the shareholder. So the project itself, it remains one of the highest grade undeveloped silver-based assets in the world. The resource is 272 million silver equivalent ounces. That breaks out into 80 million ounces of over 80 million ounces of silver and 2.2 billion pounds of combined lead and zinc. As we reach our 30% increase in the total resource, we should see the total silver resource, silver alone, exceeding over 100 million ounces of silver in the project, which is in itself a significant milestone for any silver-based project in the world. These are a summary of some of the results that we've been able to put out since we started the exploration program, our current exploration program in September 2020. The highlight, of course, is a result that we put out in early February, 8 meters, averaging 1,072 grams per ton silver, 26% combined lead zinc, for an equivalency of 2,040 gram per ton silver. A very, very high grade number. You can see other thick, robust intercepts, high-grade silver mineralization. And we're seeing as well much higher grade silver itself than what was seen in the other parts of the property, deposits identified in other parts of the property. So with respect to Cerro Las Minitas, we have two projects within Southern Silver. The Oro project is a much earlier stage project. It's located in southern New Mexico, about 50 miles south of Lordsburg in New Mexico. It's 100% owned. It's a laramide copper moly porphyry system. And we're now in the process of permitting that project in preparation for drilling later this year. The flagship of the company is Cerro Las Minitas. It is a skarn silver-lead-zinc system, again, 100% owned. It sits in the heart of the Faja de Plata, or belt of silver, of north central Mexico. Right now we're targeting, we started drilling in September 2020. We're targeting a 30% increase in the resources. We continue to advance the project and de-risk the project with engineering and metallurgical work and studies, and all of that is getting rolled into a PEA. We're looking at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022 for that. And so we are located in an area, mature mining and development area with superior infrastructure and community support. We're located on the edge of the Altiplano, and this is not in the mountains. We're sort of out of the way of the narcos, and so it's a very safe jurisdiction to be working in. We're adjacent to major towns and major cities. We have excellent access running right through the project. We have our environmental and exploration permits in place. We have our exploration access agreements in place with the local ejido. These are 25-year agreements that we have, and we're on excellent terms with the local peoples. We've completed over 70,000 meters of drilling, over 160 drill holes, over $27 million spent to date at a very low and effective cash discovery cost of only 9 cents an ounce silver equivalent. We're currently being valued at over 40 cents silver equivalent. And so again, exploration is a great way to organically grow the project and grow the asset value in the company and for the benefit of the shareholder. This is where we're located. You can see Southern Silver, Cerro Las Minitas project in yellow, sitting in here. It's a large property package, 345 square kilometers. We're surrounded by producers. On our eastern boundary is Hekla Mining San Sebastian project. On our northern boundary is Fresnillo's El Titanic exploration play that they've been drilling off and on for the last 5 years. Avino is mining gold and silver veins at their Avino mine. And Core Mining has their La Preciosa project located 25 kilometers to the west of our property package. We have highways running right through the property. There's rail lines, power lines. There's actually power extending up to the property, although it would have to be upgraded for any real mining scenario. And so it's a great place to be working. We operate out of the town of Guadalupe, Victoria, which acts as our base of operations. It's only an 8-minute drive to the property. This is Cerro Las Minitas. You can see in the foreground a part of the divided highway that runs right from the property, right through the property, only about half a kilometer away from the known mineral deposits. So the Cerro itself is a zone of alteration that surrounds a more recessively weathered intrusion that acts as the heat pump for the system. We've identified 4 major mineral deposits on the western flank of the Cerro and are now currently exploring on the eastern side of the Cerro, right over in this area in the South Skarn Target and the Mina La Bacona Target. Now just note that we've identified our mineral resources only on the west side, and that none of the mineralization that's currently being identified or historically when we were drilling there in 2011 to 2015, none of that mineralization was ever incorporated into into mineral resources. So this is all new stuff. Just a little schematic cross section through the through the Cerro. We have a central intrusion. It acts as the heat pump for the mineralizing system. We have historic mines around that intrusive neck, mining some of the high-grade lenses located right around that intrusive neck. Some of that mining can be quite extensive, extending down a couple of 100 meters or more. But for the most part, it was relatively shallow, mom and pop, low tonnage operations. We've identified 4 deposits on the western side, including the Skarn Front deposit. It is the largest and most continuous mineral deposit identified to date on the project, making up over 200 million of the 272 million silver equivalent ounces known on the project. We're now exploring in the Mina La Bacona target area and a little bit to the south of Mina La Bacona in the South Skarn target. This is a pretty classic Skarn and CRD system. It's very similar to other world-class and major deposits like Grupo Mexico's San Martin deposit, located just 120 kilometers away. First Majestic's La Paria deposit, located 80 kilometers to the south, and the Velardeña district. It's Peñola's classic mining district. Again, Skarn CRD deposits. It's located just 80 kilometers to the northeast of the property. Quick breakdown of the mineral resources. And again, the main thing here is just to highlight, it's a large mineral deposit, 23.9 million tons, 18 million tons are within the Skarn Front deposit. So it has been the area or the deposit that we have focused on and built the greatest resources on over the last several years, and then are continuing to chase it as it wraps around to the eastern side of the Cerro. And so you can see we've been quite busy in our exploration, with most of the exploration focused on the eastern side of the Cerro. This is a plan map of the Cerro, so we have the central intrusion in this area here, and that's that sort of mauve color. Around that, this green zone is a zone of alteration, and that hosts much of the mineralization around the intrusive neck. On the western side of the Cerro, I've outlined in red and highlighted in yellow the surface projection of the known mineral deposits. So all the mineral deposits here on the west side of the Cerro. We're now focused exploration in the Mina La Bacona target area and the South Skarn target area. I'll show you a couple of long sections here that'll show what we're trying to do and sort of pierce points of mineralization, and particularly high-grade mineralization that we've identified on the property to date. So at Mina La Bacona, we've identified 3 different targets. There's a sulfide oxide zone, that's shallow, only going down around 150 meters. We've intersected some thick zones of shallow mineralization, gold and silver mineralization in hole 125, some step outs in hole 127, some high-grade mineralization in 78, and now we've the black dots, and so these 2 holes, 137, 139, these are holes that we've completed drilling and we're still waiting on assays from, and that's the same for all of these other black dots in the diagram. The high-grade sulfide mineralization is located in the Morella chimney and the Bacona chimney. The Bacona chimney in particular was drilled underneath one of the historic mining shafts that were driven on the property decades ago. Although it does extend around 200 meters, or actually deeper than 200 meters below surface. We started drilling underneath those workings with hole 131. We identified 8 meters of 2,040 grams per ton silver equivalent, some good step out holes in 129 and 128. So a nice good cluster of mineralization here. And then also in the Morella chimney, a nice big cluster of mineralization here that highlighted by our 33 meters of 435 gram per ton silver equivalent. Also, just to note that these thicknesses are estimated true thicknesses. That in many cases the downhole thicknesses are twice as much, or nearly twice as much as what's recorded here in our true thickness estimates. Now you can see the black dots. These are all holes that are that we continue to step out from this high-grade mineralization. We've done sort of closer space drilling, trying to trace that high grade. And what we're doing now is not only identifying mineralization that may track down dip right to some of our earlier drill holes, our hole number 10 and our hole number 83. These were drilled in 2011 and 2015 respectively. But we're also drilling the area in between what these two pipes or chimneys and potentially bringing together these zones into one large zone of high grade sulfide mineralization. So we're continuing to work on that. We're down, as you can see, just over 400 meters in the Morella chimney, and sort of drilling now, starting to drill in this area in the Bacona chimney, with the idea of blocking out this entire zone of mineralization. Similarly, in South Skarn, that was one of the early areas that we tackled when we started drilling in last fall, and again, you can see it's a fairly broad area, about 400 meters down dip, 300 meters along strike, highlighted, of course, by high-grade mineralization in hole 119, so that's 6.7 meters of just under 1,300 gram per ton silver equivalent, and 5.8 meters of 749 gram per ton silver equivalent. So we'd outlined a significant area, a significant target area here. And so now we're in the process of targeting these two areas, PDH, 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 and PDH. So these are proposed drill holes, and we've just started on this one, and we'll complete that. And that should essentially put a bow on our South Skarn target and have it fully ready for determining the mineral resources in this specific target area. So other work that we've done, metallurgical work and engineering test work. We've completed the metallurgical work lock cycle testing, which it tends to be a cut above some of the batch testing that you'll often get on this level of project. We've had excellent silver recoveries, over 90%, upwards of 95% zinc recovery, over 80% lead recovery, and a 60% copper recovery. So this has resulted in being able to successfully separate saleable copper, lead, and zinc concentrates from the skarn front zone. We've taken that the values, the recoveries, and the grades of those, dropped them into what's called an NSR model, which puts a dollar value on each block within your block model, and has shown the distribution of the highest grade mineralization within the deposit. And on that basis, we've then created a stope model, production scenarios, and mine scheduling, so the preliminary mine design. And you can see some of the results of that work here. And so what we've identified now is some of the initial scheduling for the larger deposit on the western side. We're currently drilling over in this area. So we're looking over to the east now, toward the east, and over in this area is where we're drilling in South Skarn and Mina Bacona target areas. The idea is to drill those out, have an updated resource in July, August, and then work all of that into an all-encompassing PEA study that will tie together a mine scenario for the eastern side, as well as a mine scenario for the western side. So very quickly, I'd like to touch on our Oro project. It's a much earlier stage project, again, 100% owned. It's a fairly large property package at over 22 square kilometers. The project is located, you can get there by car or truck, 50 miles south of Lordsburg, New Mexico. You can drive right up into the property. It's a large laramide porphyry copper system. There's a big alteration zone that sits in the upper parts of a porphyry. We've flown the property with a Z10 deep seeing geophysics survey, and we've identified 8 different drill targets, around 5,000 meters of drilling, largely in this area, which is targeting the porphyry target, and then a bounding skarn target off in this part of the property as well. So we've identified targets. We're in the process of permitting, and we'll be prepared to drill this property in the September-October timeframe. We will either do that within Southern Silver ourselves, or potentially spin the project out into its own copper asset and give our shareholders a chance and further uplift looking at a copper target in later this year. Okay, and yeah, just to finish up here, again, to reiterate the experienced management team and board that we have on the project, or that we have in the company, experienced mine finders with a history of success in Mexico. You'll see about a dozen different mines within these CVs. Many of them world-class deposits, many of them in Mexico. So really, it's a group of people that know what major projects look like. They know how to advance the projects, and they know how to bring them to a production decision, either within the companies that they're operating with or through sale to a producer who puts those projects into production for the benefit of the shareholder. Again, the capital markets profile. You can see the share price. That was an earlier share price now there, but what we're looking at is around a $100 million market capitalization as we trade between 45 cents and 55 cents. It ranges from 100 to 120 million in terms of the market cap. Major shareholders include Electrum, management directors. We also have about 7% institutional shareholding within this as well. So that's really it. Thank you. What we've had is a transformative transaction with Electrum. It creates an attractive entry point for investors. The asset itself is one of the largest and highest grade undeveloped silver projects in the world, and we're currently drilling and looking to expand that resource by 30% as we move forward in 2021. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was really very interesting, Rob. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. I have just a couple of quick questions initially. Is Oro in a separate company? So if you've discovered wonderful things, you could spin it out to the shareholders?
Let me respond to that. It presently isn't, but we have formed a company, a single purpose company, recently called Eureka Copper Inc. The reason why is not because of our committees, but simply it's the Eureka mining district in New Mexico. I'm sure that listeners know how a spin out works, but the assets will go into, in this case, the mineral claims will go into Eureka from Southern Silver for shares of Eureka. The Eureka shares then will be given by a plan of arrangement to the shareholders. So the shareholders will get, in essence, a dividend, but it's not a taxable incident, etc. And an opportunity to have that company grow, see what the asset base of this porphyry is. I might say that, we've had this property for about 10 years. It goes back to the early 1900s, before New Mexico was a state, and there's 5 mines on the property. It's an old homestead. We took a long time to put together the state leases, the BLM land, and some freehold land. And the freehold land was homesteaded way back when the Indians were a predominant force there, and the railroad was supposed to come through Heshita from east to west, and a little bit of gerrymandering, I think, happened, and it came east to west, but a lot further south. And so the township moved from where we are south, the town died, and the mines died. So lots of history, but a long answer to a short question. We think we can make a very exciting copper play out of this. We have the money to do it. We would probably finance the Eureka company, and we know where there's copper plays in North America, so we may use it to start with this project and then build it. But it's just an organic growth. Long answer to your question, but I think somewhere in that answer is the answer to your question.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just have two other quick questions, and then I'll turn it over to the panelists. Can you just touch on, in the Mexican property, the status of water, and do you have enough permits beyond the environmental permits for what you're trying to do, and are the Mexican government behaving or being helpful?
Rob, do you want to respond to that?
Sure. Yeah, in terms of the permits, at this stage, we have exploration permits in place. These include, as I presented, a 25-year exploration access agreements with the local ejido. Our Serenat, or a drill permit, was recently updated or I should say renewed in early September of last year. So we had that in place as we started our drill program. That's I think a 4-year permit. We're all set up for exploration. When it comes time for exploitation, and mining, then we will need additional permits in place. Fortunately, we are in Durango. And Durango is a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. We've met the governor on 3 occasions, as Minister of Economy on four occasions, and in fact, as Minister of Economy, I actually used to mine on the Mina La Bacona Target area, or the Mina La Bacona mine. And so they've all been very, very supportive of what we're doing. We do not anticipate any additional and any abnormal permitting hurdles in our as we continue to advance the project. And the idea would be, once we've completed that initial economic assessment of the project, we'll have a sense of the scale and scope of what we want to do, and what may be the various impacts, and that will leave us in a much better position to then speak with the ejido, speak with the state authorities, start getting our, whether it be our blasting permits or whatever in place. In terms of the water, I don't know right off the top of my head what the water situation is like. I do know, though, that there have been active mines up in the Velardenia district, located just 80 kilometers away, active mining at Avino, and active mining at San Sebastian. So we are surrounded by active mining plays. And just colloquially, I do know or understand that the water situation in Durango is not nearly as bad as say in Zacatecas, where it can be very, very dry. The water table itself on the property is just 100 meters below surface, 80 to 100 meters below surface. And in fact, that's we drop a pipe down the Mina La Bacona shaft, in fact, and pump out the water, and we use that for our drilling water. So my sense is that it's not going to be a big issue, but I don't absolutely know that for sure.
Great, very thorough answer to what can be a really tricky question. Thank you. I see that Adam Graff is with us today. Adam, do you have any questions, and how are you? You have to unmute yourself. No? Okay. Michael Kern, are you with us today? Do you have any questions? Huh. Nancy Marchand, do you have any questions today? Oh my. Rolf Wagner, do you have any questions? Here he comes.
Can you hear us, Rolf?
Rolf, do you have any questions? He's unmuted.
Maybe he's having an audio issue. We can swing back. We'll leave him unmuted. Anyone else who has a question, you can unmute yourself. But I do have some questions from the audience, and it might be some of these individuals as well. Okay, so the first question is, can you compare your resource to nearby Heklas? Is it comparable?
Not exactly. Hekla's resource tends to be more silver and gold mineralization. There is one component, I think it's called the Hugh vein, is polymetallic like ours, but the balance of their mineralization is more silver and gold, and it does tend to be a little bit higher grade. So any mining scenario that we would look at would be looking at maybe a larger mining scenario, a larger mining situation, where Hekla may be mining more on the 500 to 1,000 ton per day type operation. We'd be looking at maybe a 3,000 to 4,000 ton per day operation when at its peak, when it's mining certainly on the western side of the Cerro.
All right, thank you. And just for my own, is Hekla deeper? Is the resource deeper, or do you know?
Generally not as deep, and in fact, they have some near surface mineralization that they'd been mining most recently. Now, some of the mineralization that we're identifying now, particularly that oxide gold zone, is near surface. And so there may be some opportunities as we expand on the eastern side of the Cerro to be identifying more of that shallow mineralization and potentially even some bulk mineable, something that could form the basis for a starter pit. I would like to say as a bit of a follow-up to actually the first part of the question, that we are probably more like Peñoles Velardeña district, which is located just 80 kilometers up the road. And Peñoles also has a smelter, a lead smelter in the city of Torreon, which is located just about 120 kilometers up the road. And the smelter was built to support their Velardeña district. And so that's probably the closest analogy that we have that is close by to what we're doing here.
Great, thank you. Next question. Can you outline how many meters of drilling you'll be doing this year, and will it all be on the south/east side?
We're looking at completing, well, we started in September 2020, and it's a 20,000 meter program. We're still drilling minerals, so we're going to keep, we've got about 13,000 meters completed. We're going to keep going until we've identified all the mineralization that we can on this eastern side. That's within 400 to 500 meters of surface. And so right now we believe that we can do that with 6,000, 6,500 meters. If that needs to go to 2,500 meters to get it done, that's exactly what we'll do. And now the second part of the question is that most of our drilling is on the eastern side. We've drilled 2 holes on the western side, and I think only 1,200 meters out of the 12,000 that we've drilled to date. And there is some other targets that we are considering on the western side, but suffice to say 90 to 95% of our efforts are going to be on the eastern side of the Cerro.
Thank you. And as for the eastern side, a recent press release indicated bonanza grade results on the eastern side, and then it might be close to surface, indicating potential for open pit operations. Is that correct?
Yes. In the certainly the Mina La Bacona area, there seems to be 2 big clusters of sulfide mineralization as well as some oxide mineralization that's even closer to surface. And so there is the potential to have a starter pit there. I mean, again, once it gets modeled and we have the engineers look at it, then they will simply be able to advise whether you want to dig a big hole or whether you want to go underground and mine it and mine it that way. One of the key features of this style of mineralization that we're seeing is that we actually have some good underground mineable thickness. So there's a means to be able to do bulk mining underground, effectively bulk mining underground, and that really brings down your costs. And so that can be an effective way to mine, to mine these high grade lenses as well. So I will, it's a possibility, but I'll let the engineers tell me at the end of the day.
Thank you. Okay, so another question about the eastern side. Why historically was the eastern side never drilled, or was it? And what made you decide that that side would yield potentially higher grade targets?
Well, when we started out drilling, we on the western side. Well, I guess when we started out, we circled right around the intrusive neck, and then we identified some very shallow mineralization with 1,000-gram silver in the Blind El Sol areas, and that was tens of meters to surface. We had some good luck there, so we continued to chase that out. And then it was actually when Freeport came in and started drilling on the project. They drilled deeper underneath the Blind El Sol target, and they hit a thick zone of sulfide mineralization, very zinc-rich sulfide mineralization with some silver credits, and that was about 50 or 60 meters thick, that intercept. And so when we started drilling again, we stepped out from that and started hitting 15, 25, 30 meter thick zones of mineralization. And so at that point, it became easier to connect the dots and add tonnage, which was what we were trying to do. So that's what we did. We focused on the western side where we could step out at 100 or 150 meter spacing and drill 20, 25, 30 meter thick zones of mineralization with the idea of creating a large mineral resource, figuring out just how big this system could be. At that time, we had drilled on the eastern side. We had identified some zones of higher grade mineralization, but when we more aggressively stepped out, as we had done on the western side, mineralization skinnied down very quickly. So our feeling was that yes, there was higher grade mineralization on the eastern side, but it was a little bit less homogeneously distributed than on the western side. Sorry, on the eastern side, less homogeneously distributed than we had on the western side. And so that's why we focused on the western side, and it was always a matter of just coming back and doing we had 15 holes on the eastern side. The idea for this current program was simply to step off our high grade and see what we could get. And so far, we've been very successful in that and creating bigger and higher grade lenses of mineralization than we'd seen previously, generally than we had seen previously on the property.
Thank you. Another question, are any of the existing underground workings usable?
Not very likely. Not very likely. There may be some capacity in around the Mina La Bacona, but often what happens in these situations when it's a mom and pop, they really cuddle up to the mineralizing system, and so they won't necessarily be built to maximize your development of a much larger system, which may dip off, dip off one way or dip off the other way. And so generally with larger mine development scenarios, you kind of have to step back a little bit. Also, if we are going to look at a 3,000 or 4,000 ton per day operation, it needs to be much bigger, a much bigger decline in terms of the size, so you can get the proper equipment down there and the large enough equipment down there to maximize your mining efficiency.
Understandable. Great, thank you. Another question just came in. You mentioned bulk mining underground. What exactly is that?
Now, I'm not an engineer, so I might be speaking a little bit out of turn, but it's mechanical mining methods that allow you to mine larger blocks. And I think the most extreme case is a block caving method that they use in Australia for some of their porphyry deposits, and you're seeing it used more and more, or at least looking to use it more and more in North America right now, particularly by the Australian companies, which kind of perfected it. But there are other mining methods that where you don't need as wide zones of mineralization, but it allows you to mine big blocks, 10 and 15 meter thick sort of blocks in your stope and take them down. So that's, yeah, in a layman's way to explain it, that's about my best explanation.
More rock faster, right?
More rock faster. Okay, there you go.
All right. So I have another question here. How much drilling is still needed to justify enough inferred resource at 3,000 tons per day operation for a PEA?
Well, what we have now is that, that there is the initial work that we've done on the west side demonstrates that yes, you could be mining at 3,000 to 4,000 ton per day, and this would carry on for somewhere on the order of 15 years. But what we find there is that some of the better mineralization is a little bit deeper. And so our focus right now is to find shallower zones of high grade mineralization that will get to the mill first. And it'll affect a better pay down. So the objective now is not necessarily to increase the mine life significantly, although we will do that. But it is to, within that first 5 years, get your highest grade material that you can to the mill so that you can pay off your capital costs, you can pay for your additional development costs to start mining some of the deeper parts of the project. And on the west side, the mineralization extends over 1 kilometer. And so the idea right now, and this is why, to a certain extent, mineralization on the east side is a game changer. It changes the complexion of the project. That if you can find even just several million tons at a 500 gram per ton silver equivalent or 600 ton per gram per ton silver equivalent, that creates an entirely different scenario for the mine, where you can start smaller, you can mine high, so you can have lower capital costs, get a quicker pay down, and that leads you down the pathway to be able to develop the full scale project and turn it into a 20-year mine life.
Great, thank you, understood. A follow-up question from the same person then is, how much for a 3,000 ton per day mill producing 3 concentrates?
It's probably going to be, in terms of the capital cost, that's going to be somewhere in the order of, I'd say, $250 million. Actually, if you look at Los Gatos, that was the project that Larry referred to earlier. It's Electrum or Sunshine Silver Mining and Refining, then now spun out into the Gatos Silver Company. And they did a 2,500 ton per day operation, and their capital costs were on the order of $300 million. Now they're a little bit more isolated than we are. They had to build their own power line, for 60 or 80 kilometers or something along those lines. No pun intended lines. So something along those lines. And there were other things involved there. I don't think we would, given where we are, we would be quite that much, but you would still be looking at, for 3,000 ton per day, you'd be looking at least $250 million.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So far, that's all the questions from the audience. And I note that some of the individuals who had audio issues did type in their questions. So if we have any other ones, please make sure to send them in to us and we can get them answered and get back to you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You gentlemen have, this is really very interesting. Do you gentlemen have any last words of wisdom for us? The one things you want us to remember?
Remember that success, you can build on success. We've been here before, and although, we aren't a mining company with a lot of engineers in the back room, we know how to access talent when we need it, and we know how to put the best shine on the asset so that it's attractive to to a major, or alternatively, doing what Rob's doing now is finding some reasonably accessible mineralization. I'd love to talk to your folks, say at the end of the year when we have a PEA by M3 or something like that, that says, yeah, you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. You can mine this at a profit, and here's your present value. All of those building blocks we will have by the end of the year. So I just encourage people to put SSV on your radar. Buy some if you've got a view that you want to have considerable appreciation, and watch what we're doing, because we're going to create tremendous value here.
Thank you very much. Fascinating. Any last words, Rob, or good night all, and thank you all for coming.
I think that's a
Good
good
night
way
all,
to
and
end.
thank you all for coming.
Thanks so much, and thank O&M for putting this on. We appreciate it.